Hey, it's Pete. Welcome back to Question Christ. And man, just when I thought things were getting better, my weeks just got crazier. So I apologize for not being here for the last couple weeks. About 2 weeks ago, my wife was complaining about stomach pain on and off for 3 days. We were doing normal things like going for runs and things like that, jogging and everything. She was okay. She didn't have any fever, so she was doing like physical activity. She was okay. But on the third night, her stomach really started hurting her, and actually started hurting her to breathe. So we called a friend of ours who is an emergency medicine doctor. He came over to check her out like 12:30 at night, and he looked at her and said, "You need to go to the hospital." And so he took her in because he could whisk her in. It's good to have friends in medicine, and I stayed home with my kids, and because I didn't want them to wake up and freak out. And so he was texting me throughout the night, hey, we're going to scan her belly, all this kind of stuff. So at 6:30 in the morning, he calls me and says that she has to go in for surgery. They had found some internal bleeding, they thought, and but he sounded all frazzled. And I said, hey, well, is she going to be okay? He's like, oh, she's in good hands. But he sounded like weird, all right, stop with all the doctor talk, is she gonna make it? Is she gonna come out of there? And he said, there's a chance she might not, that she's really, really sick. And so I said, well, thanks, man. I appreciate you telling me the truth. And so at 6:30 in the morning, my kids get up around 7 to go to school. And I just fell on my face here. I was by myself in the house with these sleeping kids. And I said, God, I just need you to get me through these next few hours so I can get these kids situated so I can get to the hospital and figure out what was going on. I didn't want to panic them because I didn't know what was going on. So I thought my best bet was just to get them to school and to a friend's house and then just go. So I got them ready, Luckily my wife's schedule is really erratic. So sometimes she leaves really early in the morning. So I was like, well, Mom had to leave early today and all this stuff. And then I got them in the car and I'm driving them, and as I'm looking at their innocent faces in my rearview mirror, I just got gripped with fear. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, am I going to have to tell them tonight that their mom died? Am I going to have to, start planning a funeral? Am I going to I'm a stay-at-home dad, my wife works, that's how we support ourselves. How are we going to do? I mean, all this stuff just started, I just started becoming overwhelmed with all this stuff. So in that moment, thank God, a verse came to me that's dear to my heart. And this is why you guys should really be in the Word like as much as you can. I try to be in it every day. I don't do a great job of it sometimes, but try to be in the Word every day and get this stuff deep inside of you. So when these moments come, that you're ready for it and God will nourish you in these moments. It's in Matthew chapter 14. I'm going to start in verse 25. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied. I love this Peter guy. He, of course, is my namesake, right? Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? And that just speaks so much to me, and it spoke so much to my situation. Peter was a fisherman, and so when he got out of that water, if you've ever been near water, when the wind is blowing up, the water's choppy. So this is also kind of saying that the waves were probably picking up, okay? And so he gets out there, and when he is looking at Jesus, he's okay, right? But then as soon as he starts looking at the situation around him, he starts to sink. And in that situation, it just spoke to me that, I am looking at my circumstances and they are hard. It's not to minimize your circumstance. It is tough. when you think your wife's going to die on the operating room table, and your kids, you're going to be left with these kids. It is terrifying. It's not saying that, but it's saying that you can't focus and get gripped by that. You have to look at the only one you can trust, which is Jesus, and to follow him. That's what he says for us, to follow him. And when we start looking at our circumstances, that's when we get into trouble. So my little motto for myself is get your gaze off the waves. Okay? And at that moment, it hit my head. I said, get your gaze off the waves, man. Get your gaze off the waves. And it got me back and focused on that I have to trust God. I have to trust God in this situation. I don't know how it's going to end, but I have to trust him. And so I got my kids situated. I got them where they needed to go. And then I got to the hospital. And by the time I got to the hospital, they said that she was out of surgery and she was going to be okay. She had a ruptured ovarian cyst that hemorrhaged all over the place. And she had over 1 liter of blood in her belly when they opened her up. She would have died if she had not come in as early as she did. So it was a scary situation. Some of you are probably saying, well, Pete, that's great. You know, your wife got better and we're glad that she got better. But what would have happened if you showed up to the hospital and she had died? Would you be on here telling us how great this passage is? And I'd say, yeah, I needed even more at that point. Because the waves would be even bigger at that moment, okay? Jesus never promises us that we're not going to go through trials and pain and suffering. This idea that Christians are going to get away from that is not biblical. I would still need God to walk me through all the trials and the pain and the suffering that I'd be going through. I desperately have to cling on to him because the waves would just be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I just want to speak that to you guys. If there's are people out there who are just struggling, going through a lot of hard stuff, not minimizing any of your pain or suffering, but you don't have to walk through it alone. Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart because I have overcome the world. Jesus has died for us. He shows us that there's another side to this whole thing besides just this world we're in. And we just have to cling on to his promises, his teachings, his truth. So I hope if there's any of you guys out there who are suffering or holding on by a thread, don't do it by yourself. This world is too heavy to do by yourself. Okay? Hope you're doing well. My wife is doing fine. I've been nursing her back to health. That's why I haven't been on here for a while. But thank you, and I appreciate your prayers for her continuing to get better. She went back to work yesterday. I think she should have taken a little time more off, but hey, what do I know? Okay, talk to you soon. I'll try to be doing videos more often. Peace.